Monica, could you step into conference C? That's how it started, not even a knock. Just her VP Jason, all smiles and spreadsheets, standing in the doorway with the emotional range of a salad bar. It was Friday. 3:48 p.m. She hadn't even finished her second cold brew. The same Jason who once begged her to talk down an angry client in Omaha, who used to slack her you up at 11 p.m. for help with his PowerPoints, now couldn't look her in the eye. There were two HR reps already in the room, one she didn't recognize. The other, Sheila, was visibly sweating through her blouse like she was about to testify in court. Jason cleared his throat like he'd rehearsed. You've been an invaluable part of this company's journey, truly. But the board's pivoting to a more agile, forward-leaning team. With our new org strategy, cut the TED talk, Jason, she said. Calm, almost too calm. Am I being laid off? He blinked. Offboarded. She actually laughed. Offboarded like a kayak? There's a generous transition package in your email. We're grateful for everything you've, but she wasn't listening anymore. Her inbox pinged mid-sentence. Access revoked from Salesforce, then Slack, then G Drive, like her body was still in the room, but the system had already deleted her soul. A few minutes later, she was walking back to her desk with a cardboard box. The office was quieter than she remembered. IT had already deactivated her badge, so her stuff was brought to her by a visibly apologetic intern named Jess, who looked one sneeze away from a breakdown. They said I could get fired if I didn't pack your things fast enough, Jess whispered through tears. I'm so sorry. You're the reason I took this internship. Monica gave her the last thing left in her control, a steady hand on her shoulder and a faint smile. Don't cry for me. Jess, cry for whatever sociopath replaces me. That got a watery laugh. She held it together until she stepped into the elevator. Alone, box in hand. 24 years of excellence reduced to a keycard that wouldn't even light up the damn button. If you're still listening, do us a solid. 97% of y'all binge these stories without subscribing. And look, we're not asking for blood, just a tap. A click. It keeps this chaotic little operation running. And honestly, it gives the team a reason not to scream into their desk lamps. So smash that subscribe button like it just laid you off on a Friday. Back in the lobby, the receptionist, a new girl named Peyton, waved goodbye like Monica was just going on a coffee run. No one else came down, no speech, no cake, just a sterile email from HR and her name removed from the org chart before her Uber even arrived. It wasn't the job, it was the disrespect, the theater of it. 10 years of fixing their flaming garbage fires with nothing but duct tape, red pens, and 20-hour weeks. She was the one who stayed when the CRM crashed, when the backend failed, when their innovation officer pitched TikTok strategies to clients still using fax machines. Monica had carried that place through 3 restructurings, 2 acquisitions, and 1 C-suite scandal involving a suspicious quantity of edibles. Now she was non-essential. As her Uber pulled away, Monica didn't cry, didn't scream. She just stared out the window as the skyline blurred by, her reflection barely visible in the glass. Somewhere deep beneath the shock and the silence, a switch flipped. Not rage, not yet. Just a quiet little voice in her ribcage whispering, you owe them nothing. But they owe you everything. And that, right there, was the beginning of the end. 2 weeks after the cardboard box parade, Monica sat cross-legged on her living room floor, hair in a bun, wearing the same hoodie 3 days in a row. Her resume stared back at her from a glowing MacBook, each bullet point a monument to a career no one seemed to care about. She'd filed for unemployment the Monday after the layoff, clicked through a website that crashed twice and gave her an estimated payout that barely covered her rent. We'll notify you of your eligibility, the screen had said. She almost laughed. Eligibility, like she was auditioning for poverty. Her inbox became a graveyard of ghostings. One job interview, just one, called her an impressive legacy candidate, which she quickly realized was code for we think you're old. She was 42. The worst part? She kept refreshing her old company's LinkedIn feed like a masochist. That's how she found out they'd promoted a 29-year-old product manager named Chad, yes, Chad, to replace her. He posted a photo of himself holding a whiteboard marker like it was Excalibur. The caption, excited to lead this new era of agile ops. Let's build. 2 days later, Monica got a panicked LinkedIn message from a former client. Hey, who's managing the Midwest fulfillment accounts now? No one's answering. She didn't reply. She just stared at it until her wine went warm. The real twist came when she ran into Elena at the grocery store. Monica was clutching a basket of frozen meals and a bottle of barefoot Pinot like a survivalist. Elena looked the same, except she had that same shell-shocked glaze Monica had seen in the mirror. They got me too, Elena said before Monica even asked. Last Friday. Said my role was migrating to a more strategic tier. Whatever the hell that means. They ended up at a dingy wine bar 2 blocks down. No frills. Just laminated menus and cheap Cabernet served in glasses that still smelled like bleach. They talked for 3 hours. Venting turned into brainstorming. Brainstorming turned into something that felt suspiciously like scheming. You remember the logistics dashboard? Elena asked, pouring the rest of the bottle into Monica's glass. The one we built from scratch because the vendor tools kept crashing? Monica nodded slowly. That Frankenstein thing we used to patch inventory bottlenecks? We could rebuild it properly, as a product, not as an afterthought. Monica raised an eyebrow. You're serious. I'm unemployed and mad. That's the most dangerous kind of engineer. They clinked their mismatched glasses. It wasn't a plan yet, just the glimmer of one. But it was the first time in weeks Monica felt not disposable, not broken, just dangerous enough to do something about it. That night, she didn't cry herself to sleep. She didn't scroll LinkedIn or refresh her inbox. Instead, she pulled out a notepad and started sketching wireframes. It wasn't about redemption. It wasn't even about justice, not yet. It was survival with a pulse. And the first brick in the foundation of something the board would never see coming. The first prototype looked like it had been designed in a war zone by sleep-deprived raccoons. They built it over 3 weeks in Monica's kitchen. Her, Alina, and Raj, a quietly brilliant former systems engineer who used to debug warehouse scripts with nothing but a post-it note and existential rage. They survived on takeout, rage caffeine, and Spotify playlists that oscillated between lo-fi coding beats and songs to burn a corporation down to. The tool wasn't pretty, but it worked. Real-time logistics flow. Predictive flagging. Actual accountability, something their old company avoided like HR lawsuits. It was built from scars. Every click solved a pain point they'd once been forced to band-aid with spreadsheets and 4 a.m. Slack threads. Should we name it? Raj asked one night, scraping pad thai into his mouth over Monica's keyboard. Monica shrugged. Let's see if it survives the week. They emailed old clients, 50 of them. Handwritten intros, tailored use cases, a live demo link. Most didn't reply, a few bounced. One sent back, unsubscribed, they almost gave up. Then on a rainy Tuesday, Monica got a reply. Hey Monica, this looks interesting. Can we hop on a call this Friday? It was from Harlan Metzger, the COO of a freight brokerage they'd worked with back in 2020. He'd once called her a wizard with duct tape. She didn't know whether to feel honored or insulted. The demo was glitchy. Raj's screen froze halfway through. Alina's dog barked during her pitch. Monica spilled coffee on her notes 5 minutes before the call, but Metzger didn't blink. He asked real questions, took real notes, said, we've been having some issues since your former team left, then added, almost offhand, and their new platform's a train wreck. Monica's pulse tapped in her throat like it wanted out. He signed a 2-month pilot deal that afternoon. 31 days later, they got a BCC'd email from a procurement officer. Effective immediately, we are terminating our contract with Redacted Corp due to persistent technical outages and unresolved ticket escalations. All future logistics workflows will be managed through our new partner, Redacted Startup LLC. Monica read that line 3 times, then again, and suddenly she felt nothing. Not glee, not rage, just a strange emptiness, like she'd thrown a punch she'd been holding in for a decade, only to realize the target had already tripped. They didn't toast, didn't brag, they just kept coding. It wasn't personal, not yet, just business. But it was the first crack in the concrete, a single drop of gasoline on the empire that ghosted her, and somewhere in the brittle back alleys of her mind, the spark waited. By the end of Q2, they had 3 clients, real ones, not pity contracts or friendly favors, but paying accounts with KPIs, usage reports, and feedback cycles brutal enough to shave the rust off any ego. Monica insisted on clean onboarding flows and zero fanfare. No press, no founder features. Her name didn't appear anywhere. The startup was legally registered under Alina's husband, who worked in dental supply chain and didn't fully understand what they were building, only that it involved servers and some kind of revenge. Monica called it stealth mode. Alina called it legal insulation. Raj didn't care what it was called as long as no one asked him to wear pants during Zooms. The tool had grown legs. Clients reported 27% reduction in processing delays. One even called it the first ops tool that doesn't make me want to throw myself into a forklift. High praise in their world. But Monica's eyes weren't just on code anymore. Late nights, long after the commit stopped rolling in and Raj went offline to play Stardew Valley, she digged through SEC filings like a woman looking for blood in the water. Her old employer, the same bloated organism that kicked her to the curb on a Friday, had started issuing quarterly reports that read more like bad poetry than financial disclosures. Vague line items, creative revenue deferrals, whole paragraphs about future potential synergies. Monica knew that tone. It was the corporate version of coughing into a napkin and hiding the blood. She dug deeper. Their main logistics vendor had filed a lien. A whispered email chain from a former sales rep mentioned layoffs in regional accounts. Someone on Reddit claimed their internal dashboard had been offline for days. And then there was the lease. She remembered that office lease like a scar. It was a monster. They'd signed during the 2021 return to work hysteria, locking into 10 years of prime real estate with free kombucha taps and an annual rent escalation clause that could murder a small company in its sleep. Monica had warned them. Jason ignored her. Real estate is an asset, he'd said. It shows strength. Yeah, so does a colonoscopy. She pulled the lease records from city filings. Buried in the appendix was a clause about debt-backed acquisition risk and property repossession. If the holding company missed more than 2 quarterly payments on their bundled debt package, particularly if tied to a corporate refinance. The building rights could be triggered for reassignment. That clause wasn't there when she worked there. Someone must have refinanced after her exit. That meant one thing: the wolves were already circling. Monica sat back in her chair, eyes burning from blue light and insomnia. Her cursor hovered over the notes she'd started compiling. Timelines, ownership chains, covenant clauses, contact names. She wasn't building a product anymore, she was building a case. And beneath the spreadsheets and silence, her anger smoldered like a sunken coal, burning colder now, sharper. They thought she'd vanish into consultant limbo or tuck tail into some middle management role. But she hadn't gone away. She'd gone quiet. Tip came wrapped in pleasantries, like all useful corporate poison. Off the record, said Nadia Tran over cocktails at a tech mixer Monica barely wanted to attend. Word is your old shop's trying to offload their Midwest freight division. Quiet sale. Rumors say it's hemorrhaging cash and the board wants it gone before Q4. Monica didn't flinch, just sipped her overpriced gin and nodded like Nadia had just mentioned bad weather. Any idea why? She asked, watching Nadia's earrings swing like tiny metronomes of gossip. They're upside down on their acquisition debt, Nadia said, already distracted by a passing VP. Could be a fire sale soon. Might want to keep an eye on their creditors, just saying. Nadia floated away and Monica stood in that pulsing rooftop glow, mind already shifting gears like a diesel engine rebuilt for war. She didn't sleep that night. She dug, then dug deeper. The debt wasn't just massive, it was structured, chopped into tranches and passed around between 3 hedge funds and one boutique debt group in New Jersey that Monica had worked with back in the days when she still believed in handshakes. The boutique group, Evermill Capital, had once helped finance a regional warehouse expansion. Their managing partner, Harris Kleinfeld, still owed her a favor after she saved his ass during a botched analytics rollout in 2018. She didn't call Harris directly. Too risky? Instead, she had Elena reach out through a consulting shell, Horizon Bridge LLC, legally filed in Delaware under a different EIN. She kept herself air-gapped from the negotiation. Everything ran through proxies. Cold documents, masked emails, strategically delayed responses to make the buyer look smaller, hungrier, and less connected than she actually was. What she wanted wasn't the freight division. That was the red herring. She wanted the debt package that included their central office lease, the same soul-sucking mausoleum where Jason delivered her corporate eulogy over HR handouts. The lease was tucked into a bundled security Evermill had acquired when they bought the company's Series C debt. Nobody thought it was worth much. The company was still making minimum payments. Barely. The breach triggers hadn't activated. Yet, so she made an offer, below market value. Quiet, clean. Evermill was already sniffing for liquidity. They took it. And just like that, Horizon Bridge LLC became the silent owner of a bundled debt product that, buried in legalese and signatures, held a kill switch. If the debtor missed one more quarterly covenant, Horizon could repossess physical assets, including, very specifically, the lease to Suite 4700. Monica signed the transfer from her living room at 2:14 a.m., wearing sweatpants and the hoodie she'd been laid off in. No champagne, no gloating, just a slow exhale as she stared at the clause highlighted in yellow. In the event of payment default and failure to cure within 30 days, all lease rights revert to the asset holder for reassignment and disposition. She just bought the loaded gun. No one knew it yet. Not Jason, not the board, not the overpromoted toddler running logistics. But the countdown had started, and Monica. She didn't want justice. She wanted them alive when the walls came down. By August, the smell of corporate decay had gone from subtle to suffocating. Whispers on industry Slack threads said the freight division was imploding. Clients weren't getting support. The product roadmap had turned into vapor. One vendor even posted a vague tweet that just read, "Imagine giving someone $50M and getting ghosted." Monica didn't need whispers, she had numbers. Her team quietly tracked website uptime, job postings, SEC delay patterns, and vendor payment notices. Every sign pointed to one truth. The CEO was running out of lifeboats and trying to paddle across the ocean on a door made of lies. He'd started skipping non-essential vendor payments first, then internal IT invoices, then client SLA penalties were under review. It was textbook triage. He was buying time, betting on a desperate equity round that wasn't going to land. Monica didn't move yet. She waited until their Q3 covenant date, October 1st. The debt agreement required a minimum liquidity threshold, a safety buffer they couldn't meet, not after the client churn and bleeding ops budget, and Monica was about to poke the wound. Her team approached one of their old employer's biggest clients, Langston Freight Group, legacy account worth $2.4 in annual revenue. Langston had been with them for 8 years. The CEO once called it unshakable. Through her holding company's front-facing sales team, Monica offered Langston the same service for 60% of the cost. Raj built them a custom integration in 3 sleepless nights. Elena repurposed the demo deck and stripped every ounce of fluff. The pitch was surgical, no ego, just numbers. Langston switched. Quietly, no press, no LinkedIn posts. Just a one-line termination clause triggered and a final invoice disputed. Within a week, Monica's old employer missed their Q3 covenant payment. 30 days passed. No cure, no miraculous bridge round, no PR spin. The system had been rigged with its own detonator, and now her hand hovered over the trigger. On November 1st at 9:02 a.m., Monica's lawyer filed the breach notice with Evermill, forwarding it automatically to the company's executive assistant and facilities manager. Subject line: Default notification asset reassignment initiated Suite 4700 within the hour. The building's property manager, who now answered to Horizon Bridge LLC, received instructions to restrict access, schedule a security escort, and initiate lease transition protocol. The trap hadn't just been set, it had snapped. And Monica, she didn't laugh, didn't shout, just sat in silence, coffee in hand, eyes locked on a digital clock as the seconds ticked by. She didn't want them confused. She wanted them completely unprepared. Because the next move wasn't legal, it was personal. The elevator dinged on the 47th floor like a church bell announcing Judgment Day. Monica stepped out in a pressed blazer and clean jeans, badge around her neck. The property manager, a cheerful guy named Darrell with orthopedic shoes and a clipboard full of keys, greeted her with a chipper. "Miss Lanning, welcome back to Suite 4700. Back." The hallway still smelled like citrus-scented betrayal. Same beige carpet, same flickering light above the HR closet that she used to joke was haunted by interns past. Her heels echoed with the confidence of a woman who now legally owned the floors they tried to wipe her off of. Darrell opened the glass doors with a master key. "We haven't cleared out all the personal effects yet. You'll see some remnants." She walked past her old department's bullpen. Chad's ergonomic chair still faced the window like it had witnessed the company's slow-motion implosion in silence. A sad-looking ficus wilted beside it, already halfway to hell. In the break room, someone had left a mug that read "World's Okayest CEO." Monica smiled at that, didn't touch it, just let the image burn into her memory like a Polaroid dipped in spite. They stepped into the boardroom. That glass box with its 12 white leather chairs and giant touchscreen nobody ever figured out how to use. The same room Jason had summoned her to with the offboarding speech like he was casting her out of Eden for questioning his PowerPoint. Monica stood at the head of the table now. Darrell tapped his tablet. "You're scheduled for access starting Monday. We can fast-track that if you'd like to schedule use." "Oh, I'm scheduling it," she said, and she did. Quarterly offsite, all-hands strategy day. Horizon Bridge LLC, legal holder of Suite 4700. 8:30 a.m. Monday. Attendees 12. Agenda: Q1 expansion and integration pipeline. She signed the facility's request form and handed it back to Darrell. Then she pulled out a small engraved nameplate from her tote bag, brushed steel with black lettering. She walked to the door of the boardroom and, without a word, peeled off the crusty old plaque that still read Jason McCready, Chief Executive Officer. In its place, she pressed hers against the frosted glass. Monica Lanning, Horizon Bridge Operations. It clicked in like a puzzle piece returning to its origin. Darrell blinked. "New management looks good in here." Monica gave a tight nod. "We prefer results over buzzwords." And she left the suite. She didn't look back. No need. The building didn't just belong to her now, it answered to her. And come Monday, the former CEO would find out just how deeply that truth cut. Monday, 8:29 a.m. Monica's boots hit the marble lobby like the start of a war march. No hesitation. No hesitation left to feel. The front desk guard scanned her Horizon Bridge badge and waved her through like she was returning home from a long, bitter exile. The elevator dinged, again that familiar chime, and she stepped out to see it. Suite 4700, door propped open, coffee brewing, and a handful of executives already huddled around the boardroom's obsidian table. Some were reading printed slides. One was typing nervously into a Teams chat. And at the head of the table sat Jason McCready, all botoxed confidence and lopsided ego, sipping cold brew like it still belonged to him. Monica walked in without knocking. 12 heads turned. The room paused like a frozen Zoom call. Someone dropped a pen. Jason blinked, then smirked. "Monica," he said, leaning back like a sitcom villain. "If you're here to join the strategy sync, she set the folder down in front of him. Default notification enacted Clause 4B, lease reversion and access control authority signed by Evermill. Countersigned by the property group, delivered, filed, complete." Jason's smirk faltered. "You've got to be kidding," he muttered, flipping through the stapled documents. "This is absurd. This must be a mistake." "No mistake," Monica said, her voice smooth as polished steel. "You defaulted. I own the debt package. Horizon Bridge is the legal entity assigned to the asset. As of this morning, your team is trespassing. That lease was protected under our strategic restructuring. Your strategic restructuring failed to meet the minimum cash reserve clause for 2 consecutive quarters." She said, "That's not strategy, that's insolvency." One of the board members, a woman named Trina, who'd once told Monica she was too operational to lead, cleared her throat. "Is this enforceable?" she asked, voice tight. Monica handed her a second copy. "I brought extras." Jason stood, red rising up his neck like a faulty thermometer. "This isn't how we do things. You can't just show up," and he stopped when 2 uniformed security officers stepped into the room, flanking Monica like ghosts with clipboards. One nodded politely to Jason. Sir, we've been instructed to revoke your badge access and escort you off the premises. You can collect your personal items in a labeled bin by end of day. Jason's mouth opened, closed. He looked to the board. No one spoke, no one moved. It was Trina who whispered it, almost involuntarily. Poetic. Jason barked a laugh. You think this is a win? This company will collapse without me. Monica met his eyes, dead calm. It already did. I just turned the lights off. He scoffed, straightened his blazer, and stormed past the officers with a muttered curse that sounded like ungrateful parasite. As he passed Monica, he paused, one final bluff loading on his tongue. She didn't give him the chance, just said, You're blocking the seat. I've got a meeting. He blinked, then walked out, slower than before. The door clicked shut. Monica slid into the chair at the head of the table. The same one where he delivered her corporate death sentence like it was a minor housekeeping note. She opened her laptop. The screen lit up with a Horizon Bridge dashboard, new client integrations, Series B prep, onboarding flow metrics. No applause, no confetti, just quiet, under a satisfaction beneath a perfectly neutral face. The board sat in stunned silence. None of them asked her to leave, and Monica, she didn't need their permission anymore. This was her table now. The news hit the wire before lunch, not from Monica. She didn't need the noise, but someone leaked the foreclosure notice. Maybe a building staffer, maybe a disgruntled junior exec. Either way, within hours, headlines started creeping into inboxes and Slack threads like termites. Tech firm evicted after missed debt covenant, assets reassigned to Horizon Bridge LLC speculators started asking questions. The company's stock dipped 6% by closing bell, then another 2 the next morning. Reddit threads swirled. WTF is Horizon Bridge? Did they just steal their building? No answers. Just silence from the official channels. Monica's startup, meanwhile, didn't say a word. But Series B investors were already circling, dropping offers into encrypted inboxes and NDA-laced Zoom calls. One group valued them at 9x projected ARR. 9 times. All for a tool the board once called duct tape ops. She didn't gloat. Didn't even smile when her phone pinged with the Series B term sheet. Just read it quietly while sipping tea from a chipped mug that still said World's Best Employee, a gift from Jess, intern who once cried when Monica got walked out. Speaking of Jess, she emailed, I saw the news, I knew you'd land on your feet, but this? You made me believe it's okay to be underestimated as long as you make them regret it later. Thank you. Monica replied with a simple, keep receipts, especially the ones they don't think you'll need. And then she closed her inbox. Later that week, at a rooftop event celebrating disruptive logistics, Trina, the same board member who once called her replaceable, approached her with a plastic smile and 2 flutes of champagne. I have to ask, she said lightly. Are you hiring? Monica accepted the glass, didn't sip. I'm always hiring people who didn't vote to offboard me on a Friday, she said, meeting her eyes without a shred of a grin. Trina chuckled. Fair. Monica walked away before the awkward silence caught up. The next morning, she returned to suite 4700 alone. It was quiet. No staff yet, just the hum of servers and sunlight bleeding through the blinds. She stood by the floor-ceiling windows, watching the lot below. Jason was down there, alone, wrestling with a duffel bag and a box that looked heavier than his pride. His car, a leased Mercedes he used to call the Closer, sat half-crooked in the visitor spot, hazard lights blinking like a dying signal flare. Watch without blinking, not with hate, that had evaporated somewhere between the legal filing and the second client integration. This wasn't vengeance, it was closure, clean and unceremonious. The kind you only get when you rebuild what they tried to bury. No forgiveness, no grand speech, just the quiet power of never needing to hear you're essential again. She turned from the window, sat at her desk, and opened her laptop. The sun kept rising, whether he watched it or not. This story hit me hard because it reminds you that professionalism isn't about turning the other cheek. It's about knowing your worth, playing the long game, and letting facts, not fury, burn down the empire that tried to erase you. Some exits aren't escapes, they're entries into the next level. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit him.